Walnut, down. Walnut, down. Yeah, or 12 row. Yeah. Hi, well, it is 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna get started with the presentation. It's called How to Win at Social Media. Let's see here. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Catherine Gertis. I am a millennial. I am a marketing manager at InspectAll LLC. And I actually just started training to be an inspector, so I'm an inspector in training. And I do represent the second generation in a family-owned and operated home inspection business. So a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm really not an expert, but I have spent the last 2.5 years working with InspectAll social media. So I just want to share a little bit about my experience and our journey working on social media and kind of how that has gone for us. So I have read a lot of how-to articles, and I've done a lot of trial and error with our own social media, and kind of I've seen a lot of what has worked for us and some other people. So kind of as an overview, some of the questions that we're going to look at are, does your social media tell your story? Are you using the right platforms? Is your engagement consistent? Are you signaling trust to your potential clients? Is your social media more of a business card or a conversation? And what does it look like to be authentic? So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is brand. So it is a little bit of a different way to look at your business, but branding has been a huge mind change for us and how we approached social media and talking about our business and ourselves. And it just is a really important part of building a successful social media. So a brand is everything that's visible at your business. So anything that's customer facing basically ends up being a part of your brand. So that means that there are things that maybe are a part of how people perceive your brand that maybe they aren't on purpose. Maybe you aren't taking all the control you could have over people's perceptions of your business and how you operate. So what's really important is to define your brand and then tell your story. So your story is how you communicate your brand. Building a brand is important because it gives you that power to define the conversation around your own business. And telling your story is important because you can decide kind of what's important to you and what you believe your business is, but unless you continually kind of tell that to other people, they're not going to understand it. So it's really important to continually communicate your brand to your audience. One time isn't enough. You got to do it again and again and again. So building your brand, just as a basic, most of the time, if you have an established business, you've already kind of worked through some of this stuff, but maybe you haven't thought about all of it or thought about it very concretely. So the first thing to do is identify your audience. So you probably already know who that is, partially. So it's more than just knowing like, well, my audience is people who buy houses. I'm sure it is. But what does your ideal client look like? I'm just looking at any of the businesses you had in the past. Who has been the best, easiest people to work with? Who has been the people that really understood and valued what you had to offer? Where do they spend their time? What are they interested in? What did they like about your service? And that kind of leads you to figuring out your uniques. It's really important as building your brand to have just like unique things about yourself that you're communicating, because a personal brand is only personal if it's about you. So what's unique about you that you can communicate to people that will draw in those customers you're looking for the clients that you know you're going to connect the best with? So what's unique about the service you provide? Why do people want to work with you? What are your areas of expertise? And what are your values? So what do you care about the most in a transaction? Like, what part of working with people is the most important to you? And then the next step is defining your look. So it's important to know the pieces behind your brand and the thoughts and the ideas, but it's also really important that people can recognize who you are. So a huge part of that is defining kind of what your look is going to look like. So having a logo, a color story that you use consistently throughout all your social media postings, maybe consistent font families that you use for your postings, or even for any of the materials you might be doing direct mailing with, or things like that. And then also building purposeful graphics for posts on social media, but also for cover pages. Most social media accounts will have a cover page, like your Facebook will have a cover page, your Twitter will have a cover page, and being really intentional about what you want to communicate about your brand on that space. So there are a couple ways to do this. You can work with somebody who has experience with it already. You can find people who maybe are doing more freelance work on websites like Upwork or Fiverr. Or if you have the skills and the desire, you can do a little bit of it yourself on design platforms like Canva and Pixlr, which is a little more of a complicated one, but can be useful when you're working with logos. Sorry, my it doesn't want to do what I'm telling it to. Okay, so the next part, now that you define your brand and you know what you're about and what you want to communicate to your clients and to your referral base, now you have to work into how do you communicate it? Telling your story. So are you telling your story right now on your social media pages? Your branding should be visible, what's called above the fold. So above the fold is actually a kind of a leftover term from newspapers. It refers to everything that you could see kind of when a newspaper was folded, the front page. Everything that's visible in that front area was called above the fold. So for social media pages, that means anything you can see without scrolling. So when you first log on to your page, anything that you can see without scrolling, you should be able to tell really right away some important things about your brand from the first immediate things that people can see when they find your page. So things like where you're based out of. Maybe if you have a specific type of work you do, if you work in commercial real estate or you specialize heavily with first-time home buyers, that type of information should be right away communicated as soon as they can log onto your page. And also just a little bit about the feel. Do you kind of go for a fun feel? Do you go for a very professional, sleek look? Like, what's your approach to real estate? That should be very easily communicated right away from the graphics and from the information that's on the front there. So a really important part of telling your story is utilizing every single about, bio, or story area on the platform you're using. So in terms of Facebook, for business pages, they have a section called Our Story. And that's a huge advantage to be able to communicate something important about yourself. People are looking for personal information about you, and they want that connection. And so if you have that story about kind of those really important brand moments kind of in that area, they're going to look for that and they're going to kind of connect with you on that basis. So there are a bunch of different places you can put that information. Just make sure that you're utilizing them. People really respond to narrative and to visuals. People like a story. People like it when you're telling them actively things about yourself. And people really like pictures and video. So pictures and video are actually the most get the most engagement on most social media sites, including especially Facebook. Videos are rated very heavily in their algorithms, as are actual pictures. So personalize your content and your postables. So if you're posting things, maybe you have a company you work with where they will post kind of how-tos and interesting posts on your page. Make sure you're personalizing that content and you still sneak in things about yourself or your own comments on it. People want to see that you are actually posting things, not just relying on somebody else to fill your page with content. Adding video. it can be kind of daunting if you don't have a lot of experience with it. But even just going for short Facebook Live posts, they make it really easy to just hit a button and start talking. And you I'm sure have a lot of fantastic experience and input that people want to hear. So kind of telling your story through video as well. So you really want to reinforce your brand in your responses on your Facebook or your Twitter or your Instagram pages. For example, reviews. If you're just posting a review, that's obviously fantastic. People want to see kind of how people like interacting with you, but the best way to do it is actually add your own kind of content or reaction to the review and kind of use it to underline some of the things that may have said about you that you're really proud of. So it's kind of a time to boast because people are excited about you and you get to be excited about the service you can offer others. So a really good way to look at whether you're telling your story is maybe you have friends or family look at your social media pages and let them tell you if you're really communicating everything that you want to communicate about yourself on those pages. Sometimes it's hard to look at your own page and really be able to criticize it well because you just get locked into thinking about one aspect of it. So ask some other people, see what they have to say, tell them kind of what you want to communicate and ask them if you're doing it. They could be a great resource to be able to figure that out. Keep it personal. This is actually what you see on the screen here is an example of a realtor that I actually follow, not from this area, as you can probably clearly see, it says City of Tampa. So she actually works out of Tampa. And she has some fantastic, very personalized content. And you can see right on that first section of the page, the Facebook page, what I was talking about above the fold. So you can see that right away in even the name of the page, your first home advisor. So you understand what her focus is and what she has to offer. Millennial Monday, real estate content for real people. So that's very much a very clear brand. Be like, I work best with millennials. I have great information for you. And it also advertises that you are adding content continually. And then, like I said, it says City of Tampa. So it really kind of gives you a lot of information right away about what this person does and what they're going to be able to offer a client. It's personal because it's saying something about that person. It's saying like, this is my expertise. This is where I can bring the best value. So really building and communicating a robust personal brand brings your ideal customer back to you. So you don't have to do as much work to find people. They're going to be able to find you already on your social media pages. So it's really important to know that every single tool you use has a purpose. It's good to look at social media and kind of figure out what is the best place for me. Where is my target audience? If I'm looking mostly at boomers, Facebook is a fantastic place to be. That's where a lot of people of that age are going to be really engaged heavily. If you're mainly focused on millennials or younger people, you're going to find Instagram as a great resource and a great way to reach out to people. The important things to know is the difference between a personal Facebook and a business Facebook. A personal Facebook can be a great tool, mainly to kind of communicate more intimately with your friends and family. And it kind of can be a mix of reposting things from business pages and kind of bringing some actual content from your life as a realtor in, as well as just personal interactions with people, friends and family within your referral circles. Business Facebook, having an actual business page as a Facebook, I would heavily recommend because as much as a personal Facebook can kind of tap into your personal connections, a business Facebook gives you much more visibility and it presents you as a professional. And it also does contain actual tools within the actual setup of it to capitalize on client engagement. So it's really important to have and utilize both of them effectively. LinkedIn is a great tool for business networking. You might find clients on there, but it's often used for a lot of people more as a resume proxy. So they just put their static information on there and they probably don't deal with it a lot unless they're really engaged in business networking on it. Instagram, like I said, is great for posting visual heavy content like listings or virtual showings, and it tends towards the younger demographic. So if that's the people that you connect with and work well with, that's a great place for you to be. YouTube is great for more video content, including if you get started into how-to videos, podcasts, market analysis, just kind of giving some of those more video-themed content. Twitter is more for text-based content and text and interaction in text, but it can be a great tool to kind of communicate more facts and figures and stuff. Pinterest is great for visuals. It's great for crafting, how-tos, giving information maybe about kind of sprucing up your listings and how to make them look really great. And there's a lot of other social media tools out there and social media platforms that are useful, but those are kind of the main ones that people interact with. So every tool really says something a little bit different or is for a different kind of networking. It's really important to know you don't have to be everywhere. It's really better to do a few things right. And if we take a look at this graph here, it's pretty clear if you're going to only do one social media platform, it should be Facebook. And Facebook has the highest level of engagement and the most amount of users of pretty much any other social media platform. So it's definitely the one to start out with. You can see that total 75, it's around a little under 75, so about 70% of US adults use Facebook. So that's a hefty number. And you can see obviously Instagram there peaks a little bit around 18 to 29, and LinkedIn peaks a little bit around 30 to 39. So that's important information to know. Consistency is really important. Consistency is key. It's often more important to post consistently than often. So sometimes it feels like you have to post every second, but it's actually much more important to choose maybe a couple days a week and maybe specific times during those days that you will consistently post on your platform. It's always okay to sprinkle other times in if it's more of an impromptu posting, but it's really good to have that consistent engagement. Many people utilize a post scheduling service like Buffer or Loomly. There's about 100 out there. You can always take a peek and look for yourself at what would work best for you, but they can be really useful to post to more than one platform at once and also schedule things out. So you maybe spend a day a month posting or scheduling out your posts instead of like 3 or 4 hours every day. So the important thing to know, though, is when you should post. To some degree, you probably won't know until you start posting consistently when you're going to be getting engagement, but you can find out kind of more from looking at the analytics tools in platforms, and that's where the business Facebook actually is a great resource because it has a lot of information built in. If you look into the analytics section, the insights about when are people acting with me, like what posts are they interacting with more than other posts, so then you kind of know like what your audience is looking for. So it's really important not only to be consistent in time, but also consistent in your brands. You really want to make sure all your posts and all your accounts reflect that story that we were talking about that you want to tell. So that means using consistent colors, graphics, texts. Maybe all of your reviews you use a consistent template for, or maybe all your listings you use a consistent graphic for. It's important to maintain that consistency so people recognize and understand your content and they know how to engage with it and they know who you are. Algorithms, the algorithms that run these social media platforms reward and look for consistent postings and engaged with content. So the more consistent your content is and the more people engage with it, the higher and the more reach that you will have, and the more people will kind of engage, leading kind of, it's like a snowball effect of engagement. So another aspect that's really important to talk about is signaling trust. So you are a public figure as a realtor, and sometimes social media accounts, it can be easy to forget that. But being a public figure brings a certain level of responsibility and a certain level of professionality that people expect out of you. So do your accounts look professional? Even if you don't do it to the nth degree, is everything filled out? Do you have consistent information? Do you have consistent branding? Do you have fairly high quality graphics? Just like in a listing presentation, people are going to be looking at your social media and the level of detail or the level of professionality that it looks like, and they'll judge what it's like to work with you off of that information. Especially millennials will highly weight that type of look and feel of your pages when they're looking at whether they want to work with you. It's important to look at are your individual posts professional. Sometimes people get caught in the trap of reposting something onto their business page or even onto a personal page that maybe isn't appropriate to your profession or to the platform. It's important to be really careful with political and religious postings, which isn't to say you shouldn't post anything. It's just important that you're really consistent about the type of posts you have. When you get, maybe a post would be appropriate for a personal page, but wouldn't be appropriate for a business page. It's always really important to check sources before you post anything. So it's easy to get caught up in that, especially when you're resharing something that looks really important, really tugs at you. But it's important to look at the source because, again, people are looking at realtors as public figures and they're expecting professionality. So are you showing by example what you can offer your clients? That's a huge part of signaling trust. They want to be sure that you have what it takes to help them in their home purchase or sale. And a huge part of that is knowing that you have a connection to a bigger brand, or maybe you have a connection to an association. So it's sometimes can be a great way, a place, social media, to kind of put some of those signals, be like, I'm a part of this association, I'm really active in it, like I work with these people, like I engage with my community, like I do charitable giving. On social media, they want to see the proof that you really are a part of a community and you really are a part of professional organizations. And reviews are also a huge part of signaling trust. People, as visible as you can get them, people want to know that they are going to have a positive interaction with you, and reviews are one of the best ways to communicate that. So it's really important to kind of pull it all back to building relationships. So as a realtor, your job is to build relationships, and that means real personal engagement. So one of the things that even Facebook itself tells you is you need to create content that does one of the following: makes me cry, makes me laugh, or surprises/provokes me. So that's what people really engage with. So it's always important to have facts and figures and examples of your knowledge and your expertise. But you also need to have something that really kind of gets people interested in what you're doing. So again, something like community involvement or something like charitable giving can be huge for getting people having like more of an emotional reaction to something, because they can see kind of what you're doing and it prompts them to want to interact with you. So a huge part of social media is not just what you put up, but how you react to the people that are engaging with you. So it really thrives on engagement. You got to work it to make it work. You got to work it like any other referral circles. So how do you make your referral circles work already? Like, who are you steadily engaging with? Maybe in direct calls or maybe in mail? Are there groups of people that maybe you're looking to engage with, but you're not engaging with online? That can be kind of a huge area of growth. Maybe you've been farming a certain area, but you haven't necessarily reached out to neighborhood groups online or reached out to other types of neighborhood local businesses online and tried to build a connection with them there. Social media can be a great way to kind of deepen those connections. And then a really important part of building relationships, again, as to the really engaging content, is you have a good mix of posts. So it's really important to follow what they call the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule means that you should have 80% engaging content. So content that makes you laugh, cry, makes you want to respond, content that maybe isn't as much business focused. Maybe it can be brand consistent, but maybe it's not as much business focused. And then you want 20% advertising or information specifically about your business on your social media. And that's because people look to social media as a very real way of actually interacting with people. So imagine if you kind of sat down and talked to somebody and you spent the entire time just talking about your business. Nobody would want to talk to you. They want to talk to people who have things to say, and they want to talk to people who tell good stories. So that's an important thing to remember when you're on social media. So a great example of building relationships is actually Denny's. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of the Denny's social media posts, but when you think of Denny's, you don't necessarily think of kind of a sassy, young, interesting social media presence, but they've really done a fantastic job getting engagement on pretty much all of their social media platforms. And it's because they've chose a voice and they've leaned into it. So they really lean on humor and kind of a little bit of absurdism. So you can see their post recently, May 8th, I can't wait to walk down the aisle, kind of a riff on wishing toilet paper was there. It's kind of interesting, a little funny. And then they're just capitalizing on a moment. On the right here, they made Zoom backgrounds with kind of a Denny's theme in them, which again, with a little bit of their kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. So tongue-in-cheek humor isn't the right brand for everybody, but it can be a really fun way of engaging with people online, and just an example of like thinking outside the box and how you can engage with people. So I wanted to show another post by this realtor that I follow out of Tampa. And this is just talking about how maybe a more realistic way of building a kind of relatable, interesting posts while still talking about yourself. So this would still fall as something interesting and engaging. So it's a sale that went through, and just a really personable photo, a really personable blurb. It's saying, yes, we made the sale, we got the house, but it's also really talking personally and really something that's easy for people to respond to, because they're like, oh, I want to be in a pool too. Like it's kind of getting people to react like that. So it's important to remember to offer value, have relatable content, a strong presence, so really consistent, regular interaction, and really think about what will benefit your target audience and what will they respond to, and then how can you bring that value to your followers. And just remember, it's always a work in progress. It's never going to be perfect right away. It's never going to be done right away. So it's really important to remember that authenticity wins. Be you, you're your best marketing advantage. If it doesn't feel right, it probably won't work for you, and that's okay. Use what does what you need. Use the things that do what you need to happen. Don't do everything. And then just a little note about organic versus paid. So paying for ads on social media platforms can be a great tool to pay for ads, but it's important to know how to focus those ads before you utilize them. And organic engagement is always going to be valued much more strongly over engagement that you paid to be in people's eye lines. So it's important to know organic is always just a really important way to have engagement. So a little bit about us. We're here to serve InspectAll. We're a local family-owned and operated small business. We have 15 years of industry experience. We have quick turnover times, 24-hour online scheduling. We're offering sewer cam, mold, allergen, fully licensed radon testing. We do offer $200 to $100 in handyman coupons for each client who gets an inspection with us. And we also have a 90-day inspection guarantee. We have free agent referral coverage in our insurance to make sure that you're covered in case of an issue with us. Free recall checks so we can go through and make sure there aren't any recalls on any appliances or products in the home. And then we do work really hard to kind of make sure that we're communicating in a very neutral manner with our clients, making sure that we're not here to scare them, we're here to give them education and context, and that's really important to us. So yeah, here's a few resources. Here's some of the things that I actually talked about a little bit during the presentation, or some of the places I got some of the information. And then always feel free to ask me more questions. Feel free to email me, call. I would love to talk with you guys about kind of how your social media goes and if I can help at all to do anything else. And if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or otherwise, like I said, you can always get a hold of me later.
Thank you so much, Catherine. This was super helpful.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun to be here.
Yeah. I did my first video for Facebook last night. I haven't posted it yet. I'm sorry, it was earlier today. So yeah, it was like, okay, I just need to get over the fear between the video, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm okay. I've done one. I'll continue it now.
Yeah, for sure. It's scary to try the newer things, but they really make it easy. Like, and when you look at what other people do, a lot of people aren't doing anything really complicated. They're just doing it. Like,
Right, I know. That's how I feel. It's
yeah.
like if a lot of other people can do it, I can do it. You just have to just put yourself out there. Let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Probably my biggest piece of advice, just do it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any other comments or questions, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.